Welcome. You're about to dive deep into the heart of, well, a really unpredictable event, the Italian Grand Prix at Monza.
Yeah, Monza always delivers something.
It does, and we've got an incredible source to guide us, and experts' really raw post-race reflections that give you a proper sense of being trackside, right there in the
Yeah.
middle of it all.
Absolutely. And today, what's fascinating is getting past just the headlines. We're going to unpack the incredible drama, the strategic gambles, some really unexpected team stories,
Yeah.
and even some maybe surprising insights into how Formula One itself is changing directly from someone who is right there.
Our mission today, then, is to really pull out those key nuggets of knowledge from this account, give you a shortcut to understanding what actually went down at the Temple of Speed and maybe what it means for the rest of the season. Okay, let's unpack this. So Monza, legendary Temple of Speed. It kicked off the Grand Prix with an absolutely vibrant start. Our source describes this really palpable energy.
You could feel it, apparently.
Exactly. Yeah. An excitement that completely mirrored the F3 and F2 races earlier. It was, well, in those opening moments, properly intense.
And straight into the action with Max.
Right. Max Verstappen, in what's actually a rare misstep for him, exceeds track limits, cuts the first chicane, but then almost immediately shows sportsmanship, gives the position back to Lando Norris.
Which he had to do.
He did, only to, moments later, just take it back with sheer pace. It was a real whirlwind start.
But that initial chaos, the overtakes, the close calls, it actually gave way pretty quickly to a stark contrast.
Yeah, our source mentioned that.
After that really vibrant opening, the mid-race period, well, frankly, it settled into something described as quite boring.
Right, tire management time.
Pretty much. Everyone managing tires, holding distances. There were some DRS trains further back, those frustrating situations where cars get the drag reduction, but just can't seem to make the move.
Yeah, stuck in line.
Exactly. That early excitement just sort of faded away for a while.
So the mid-race does settle down, but our source still really highlights Max Verstappen's performance as, well, a masterclass.
Oh.
Even when the car isn't maybe demonstrably the fastest car out there, how does he consistently find these opportunities? What did you see in his mental approach at Monza that really underlines this dominance?
Well, what our source captured was Max's almost surgical precision. After that initial track limits thing, he didn't just get the position back, he re-earned it.
Right.
And not with some desperate lunge, but by just systematically executing a perfect race from that point. It wasn't necessarily about raw speed every single lap, but more about this unshakable discipline. Even that momentary lapse couldn't really derail him.
Interesting.
After those first few laps, honestly, his race became incredibly easy. He sounded tremendously calm on the radio throughout. And while there was that big 20-second gap between Max and the first McLaren by the end,
Yeah, huge gap.
it wasn't really a true reflection of Red Bull's raw pace advantage over McLaren at Monza. That massive gap came about because McLaren had chosen a completely different strategy.
Oh, okay.
They were holding out, hoping for a safety car that never came, rather than directly chasing Max down. So it really is a testament to his ability to control a race once he gets out front.
Yeah.
And just make it look deceptively simple.
And just to add some context to that dominance, this was actually Verstappen's 5th pole position. He broke Sebastian Vettel's record for Red Bull poles.
Incredible stat.
And he now has one more pole this season than Lando Norris, which, given McLaren's recent speed, is quite telling.
It really is.
It just underscores how a driver's mental strength and that strategic execution can lead to domination, even after an early hiccup. So I understand not just the car's performance, but the driver's adaptability and the team's bigger picture strategy.
Yeah.
It's just so crucial in F1.
Definitely.
Okay, let's shift focus now. McLaren, they certainly had their own share of drama and strategic head-scratching unfolding over the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Lando Norris, for his part, had a really strong run. He was incredibly close to Max's pole time on Saturday. And actually, both he and Max set the fastest average speed in qualifying history, breaking Lewis Hamilton's 2020 record.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Then, in the race, Lando was immediately aggressive right off the line.
But McLaren's strategic choice, that was a fascinating gamble, wasn't it?
It really was.
They were essentially just holding out, waiting for a safety car, hoping it would create that free pit stop window, which can be such a huge advantage.
The golden ticket.
Exactly. The problem was, Verstappen's lead just grew so large so quickly that even if a safety car had come out, Max would have had enough of a buffer to pit without losing the lead anyway.
So it completely canceled out McLaren's hope.
Pretty much. It completely negated their strategic play. It was a calculated risk that, this time just didn't pay off the way they wanted.
Right, and that brings us neatly to the pit stops, and quite a bit of controversy around the undercut. Piastri comes in first. Our source actually captured Norris's immediate radio message back to the pit wall. No undercut, right? The team assures him, no undercut.
Famous last words sometimes.
Well, yeah, because then came Norris's own pit stop, which was described as disastrous. It was slow, and that unintentionally handed Piastri track position.
Right.
So this immediately raises the question, what now? Should Piastri give the position back to Norris? Our source even mentioned the concept of divine justice potentially playing a role here. From a team strategy view, what was the internal debate? Why give it back? Or why was Piastri maybe justified in keeping it?
It's complex. Piastri's decision ultimately to yield, despite gaining track position through no fault of his own, really, it reveals a deeper strategic game going on than just this one race result.
Okay.
Our source points out, look, he wasn't technically obliged to return the position.
Yeah.
A bad pit stop for your teammate, that's a race risk. It happens.
It's true. Part of the game.
Exactly. But by yielding, Piastri made, I think, a really savvy long-term move. He strengthened his standing within the team. He created this crucial sense of, they owe me one down the line.
Banking goodwill.
Precisely. In the grand scheme of things, that potential 3-point difference from not giving the place back, it was pretty small, really. This wasn't just about Monza. It was about building team trust, playing the long game, maybe thinking about a future championship bid where team cohesion and, maybe getting a favor return later is often worth more than a couple of points now.
That shows real maturity, actually.
It really does, especially for a driver relatively early in his F1 career.
So, thinking about McLaren's overall performance at Monza, our source used this interesting word, Rana, a froggy Grand Prix, like a frog trying to win a sprint against cheetahs.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
The circuit, pure speed, very few corners. They'd clearly just left their car feeling a bit vulnerable, out of its natural element. It echoes what Andrea Stella said about apples and pears.
Absolutely. Monza just didn't suit the McLaren package this year. It highlights those complexities, doesn't it? The team dynamics, individual ambition, clashing or aligning within this high-stakes sport, and how strategy, even when it maybe backfires slightly, can profoundly shape the outcomes.
Definitely. But, okay, beyond the battles right at the front, Monza had plenty of other intriguing stories playing out across the rest of the grid. A real mixed bag of fortunes and frustrations.
Always the way in F1.
Take Ferrari, for instance.
Yeah.
A home race that, despite, the usual sea of red, the Tifosi, was described by our source as feeling quite cold.
That's unusual for Monza.
Right. They were definitely there cheering for Hamilton, cheering for Leclerc, but it wasn't that usual electrifying passion you expect.
Yeah, it's really revealing how much the atmosphere can shift based on performance. Our expert, he was actually at Monza back in 2010 when Fernando Alonso won for Ferrari.
Oh, wow.
And he describes that day as an absolute boiling cauldron of passion, just electric. This time, though, the mood was noticeably different, much more subdued.
And that kind of reflects the reality, doesn't it?
It really does. That colder atmosphere just underlines that this has been a difficult year for Ferrari. They were never really in the fight, were they? Not in qualifying, not really in the race. And that's a tough reality for the Tifosi, who expect so much, especially at their home Grand Prix.
Absolutely. And what about Mercedes? George Russell, he had a surprisingly, invisible race, our source called it, stuck in no man's land.
Yeah, didn't see much of him.
And he apparently expressed some real frustration afterwards about a Saturday qualifying strategy decision, a clear sign maybe of some growing tension there.
Possibly. It happens when results aren't quite meeting expectations.
And this kind of brings us to a crucial point about the rookie watch, specifically Antonelli. What's your take, based on our source's insights, on his progress? Is the credit running out?
Well, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? How much credit is left? Our source believes he's certainly not a bad driver, let's be clear. But the critical question is about his learning curve. Exactly. He just isn't showing that same obvious progressive development, that clear building of speed and adaptation to F1 that someone like, say, Bortolito seems to be demonstrating.
Right.
So while Antonelli might technically have more points or maybe more Q3 appearances than some other rookies on paper, the paddock consensus, according to our source, is that Bortolito is actually significantly ahead in terms of observable progress and development.
So it's not just the raw results.
No, it's about that consistent upward trajectory of a driver's skill. That tells you a much more complete story about their long-term potential in F1, I think.
That's a really interesting point.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at Williams next. Alex Albon. He managed to score points, which is pretty notable considering he actually outperformed Carlos Sainz.
Who wasn't in the Ferrari this time, important note.
Yeah, right, good point. But Carlos was described as being notoriously faster than Albon during the practice sessions over the weekend. Despite that apparent speed advantage, Carlos left Monza with empty pockets. How did that happen?
Well, part of it comes down to this intriguing recurring technical issue with the Williams. They seem to have real difficulty generating a front tire carcass temperature.
Not just the surface temp.
No, getting the heat deep into the structure of the tire. And this means it takes them many, many laps to get those tires working in their optimal window. That's a huge handicap, especially in qualifying when you need instant grip.
Makes sense.
So Albon starting on the hard tire, that strategy paid off. It allowed him the time to work those tires in gradually and sort of come alive later in the race. Whereas Carlos's race, unfortunately, was compromised quite early on by a touch with Bierman.
Okay.
Which just compounded those underlying tire issues they seem to struggle with. It's a really granular example, isn't it, how a seemingly small technical detail like tire temperature management can completely dictate your results, even if the driver has good underlying pace.
Absolutely fascinating. And finally, in this section, Aston Martin. They suffered a truly unlucky break.
Oh, heartbreaking.
Fernando Alonso delivered what our source called a stratospheric qualifying lap. Just pure magic to get into Q3 after burning through 3 sets of soft tires just to get there.
Yeah, apparently they didn't even really expect to make it out of Q2, so getting into Q3 was huge for them.
Makes his achievement even more impressive. But then race day.
Yeah, despite that qualifying brilliance, race day was just gutting for them. Fernando was fighting for points, actually relying on Bortolito's DRS just ahead of him.
Right, trying to hang on.
And then a front suspension failure. Just like that, it was another 0 for Fernando, a really cruel end to what could have been a decent points finish.
Ouch.
And his sentiment after the race was quite telling. Something like, let 2025 pass, bring on 2026.
Wow, already looking that far ahead.
It reflects the team's need for continued progression, doesn't it? And his long-term vision. But yeah, it really highlights the cruel reality of F1 sometimes, where a moment of sheer driver brilliance can just be wiped out by mechanical failure.
Such fine margins. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Let's turn our attention away from the specific track action for a moment to the broader F1 experience at Monza. Our source observed many changes, and not all for the better, particularly within the paddock itself.
Yeah, this was quite a strong theme in the reflections. It's truly revealing to hear about the transformation that's apparently taking place.
So?
Well, the feeling is that Grand Prix weekends are increasingly becoming, essentially, entertainment for VIPs. And the paddock itself, right from Thursday onwards, has turned into more of a tourist attraction.
A tourist attraction. How do you mean?
Our source describes seeing large VIP groups being led around like sheep, literally with signs, like you'd see on a guided tour of a major historical site or something.
Wow.
Apparently, they overcrowd the pit lane, constantly taking photos, selfies, making it genuinely difficult for the teams, the mechanics, the engineers, and even the working media to just do their jobs effectively. It sounds like a fundamental shift in the atmosphere and the purpose of the paddock area.
That shift immediately brings up a really big question, doesn't it? What's the long-term impact of this kind of transformation on the sport itself?
Exactly.
Our source talked about this tension between the old Formula One and this new, very heavily monetized, entertainment-focused version. They even drew an analogy to, locals getting fed up with tourists in really popular destinations.
Yeah, that's a powerful comparison.
It makes you genuinely wonder about the sort of true essence of F1 and how these changes impact the authenticity, maybe the accessibility of the sport for everyone, not just those who can afford the VIP passes.
It's a debate that's definitely happening within the F1 community. Where does that balance lie?
Amidst all these kind of broader changes, our source shared a quite touching personal anecdote as well.
Yeah?
His birthday, September 7th, fell during the Monza weekend.
Nice. Happy belated birthday to him.
Indeed, and he reflected on the closing of Sauber's hospitality unit after 20 years. Apparently, it was a place where he'd had countless conversations over the years with drivers like Checo Perez, Juan Pablo Montoya.
Wow, icons of the sport.
Yeah. So it's a bittersweet moment, isn't it? Marking the end of an era, a really tangible sign of how F1 is just continuously evolving, sometimes losing these little pieces of history along the way.
It really is. A reminder that F1 is also a very human story, isn't it? It's filled with personal histories, traditions, connections, and the enduring passion of the people involved.
Absolutely. And our expert, much like Fernando Alonso actually, describes himself as someone who, despite seeing all these changes, remains incredibly passionate and fiercely engaged in the F1 world. Still incombustible, as he put it, always ready for the next challenge, the next race.
That passion is what keeps the sport alive, I think.
I agree. So we've truly taken a deep dive today, haven't we? From Max Verstappen's, well, calculated dominance and McLaren's internal strategy drama.
To the frustrations Ferrari and Mercedes faced, the really nuanced performance of Williams with their tire troubles, and Aston Martin's incredibly unlucky break with Alonso.
And we also explored that evolving landscape of F1 itself, both on and off the track, particularly witnessing the significant transformation of the paddock experience.
Yeah, this deep dive has really highlighted that intricate blend, hasn't it? Raw driving talent, super sophisticated team strategy, the unpredictable nature of reliability, and this ever-changing face of the fan and insider experience. It's a sport that's just constantly evolving, demanding adaptability from literally everyone involved: drivers, teams, fans, media.
Absolutely. So, thinking about everything we've discussed, what stands out to you from this deep dive into Monza? What will you be looking out for specifically in the next race based on what we learned here?
Good question. For me, it's maybe watching that McLaren dynamic even closer and seeing if Williams can get on top of those tire issues.
Interesting. Here's a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over. Considering Formula One's current trajectory, trying to balance this high-octane sport, the cutting-edge technology, and this rapidly expanding entertainment spectacle, where do you think the sport is truly heading in the next few years? And how will that balance, or maybe imbalance, ultimately define its future?